Hey PJTV fans, I'm Stephen Kruiser, and today we're going to be talking to the man who's rapidly emerging as the most palatable alternative to whichever two-headed bad choice monster the major political parties foist upon the electorate in 2016. Gary Johnson is the former governor of New Mexico, and he is once again running to be the Libertarian candidate for president. Governor Johnson also ran in 2012, but this year he's really picking up some steam early. According to a recent poll, Governor Johnson is in double digits when you compare him to the frontrunners of both major parties. And that will probably mean he'll at least be on the general election debate stage. And it also means for those of us less than satisfied with the Donald, we might have a real alternative this year. Governor Johnson, thanks once again for being here. It's good to see you.
Stephen, thank you. The significance, I think, of the poll, the double-digit poll, is the first time that my name has appeared.
Oh, so they weren't asking about you before.
They've never asked about me before. And yes, I do think that it means being in the general election debates if the national polls will continue to put my name in these polls. Now, I am seeking the Libertarian nomination, but in that poll that they cited, of course, was Hillary Clinton. She's seeking the Democrat nomination, and Donald Trump, he's seeking the Republican nomination. So why shouldn't they put the front-running Libertarian candidate in there? It's a rigged game, and it starts with not even being in the polls to start with.
It's a rigged game, but the people who have rigged it all along seem to be facing some disgruntlement in the electorate on both sides of the aisle right now that they did not anticipate at all. I mean, you know that the conservative Republicans have been complaining about the GOP establishment for years. I don't know that anyone on the Democrat side saw the Bernie thing coming. But so we see this opportunity now, and you were a belated addition to the Libertarian conversation in 2012. You've got an early chance to get something going this year. Do you see a unique opportunity to really pick off voters from both parties right now?
Absolutely, and in this poll that came out, I took more votes away from Hillary than I did from Trump, which makes a whole lot of sense. But I think Hillary and Trump are the two most polarizing figures in American politics today. I think that most Americans are libertarian, it's just that they don't know it. And speaking with a broad brushstroke, libertarians are fiscally conservative and socially liberal.
And when the Republican Party was at its conservative best, it was a more conservative, libertarian, Goldwater-esque approach to things, too. Well, and then they abandoned that for big government.
Well, Ronald Reagan said, look, libertarianism is the heart of conservatism, something like that. But yeah, libertarians have always been out there, and really, voice of reason, I think, at the end of the day.
Well, let's talk about something near and dear to my heart. When you were the governor of New Mexico, you may have been one of the last Republicans or politicians of any stripe who really did back up the smaller government, reduce the government. I mean, you were notorious for vetoing things like that. How does that, and that is at the core of what conservatives are mad at the Republican Party about.
Smaller government.
The spending,
Let's have smaller government.
The new bureaucracies. We're just sick of that. We're completely sick of that. How does the Gary Johnson model translate to D.C.? When you're president, what do you do to start reining in Congress? So you just veto everything and make them own it?
Well, you just start vetoing everything now. Certainly they could override, but that's if as president, that's all you can do is veto spending. That's what I would do. And then I'd sure be very transparent about all this, and then people can make a choice. What's the difference between Democrats and Republicans? Oh, nothing.
I heard a great quote from Charles Koch recently on NPR, of all places. He said, the Democrats have us going on the road to serfdom at 100 miles an hour, and the Republicans are only doing 80. He said it's not really much of a choice.
Well, and I think everybody can see that, and I think that's the frustration right now. And, I've been in... I understand Trump's lure, if you will, his pitch. I'm a successful business guy. I'm going to apply these same wonderful principles to the federal government and just watch how well things work. That's what I said in New Mexico. Never been involved in politics. I got this fabulous business. I'm going to apply these principles to state government, watch how things work. But I never said anything as crazy as I'm going to deport 11 million illegal immigrants. I'm going to build a fence across the wall, or a fence across the border. I'm going to kill the families of Islamic terrorists. I'm all for free market, but I'm going to force Apple to make their iPhones and iPads in the United States. And now his latest, which he did correct quickly, talking about abortion. Oh yes, women should be subject to punishment. And I realize he followed that up with an immediate retraction, which said he was now going to criminalize the doctors that perform these abortions.
Yeah, well, his supporters don't care, though. He can say anything he wants, and he gets away with it right now. But I want to go over to the Democrat side right now, because you see Bernie Sanders energizing the mythical youth vote, which never turns out in general elections the way people say it's going to, but they're fired up right now. They're passionate right now. Do you see them more likely to actually go out and vote for somebody else? Because the Democrats, at the end of the day, are very much a hive mind when it comes to the general election. They can complain and moan all they want during the primaries, but they will always go vote for the nominee. And this looks like the year that maybe that won't happen. And I don't think they're as big on the sit-home protest vote. Do you think that they'll actually go, this youth vote, if Bernie isn't the nominee, will actually go out and start voting for other people?
Well, I hope so. I took the I Side With quiz the other day. For those watching, go get online, take the I Side With quiz. Well, I was amazed to find out that the politician next in line with myself was Bernie Sanders. And immediately there was a surprise, and then a few seconds later, I came to this epiphany that, oh, I get it. The whole social side, the whole let's stop bombing, crony capitalism, you bet. But then we part ways when it comes to government spending and making government smaller, not putting it in a position to solve all of our ills. Socialism versus capitalism, free market versus controlled who knows what.
That should be an easy pitch to make. Let me give you an example here. My daughter's 17. She had her first job last summer. She gets her first check. She was appalled at the taxes. She was just looked at. I've never indoctrinated her. I didn't prompt her. She goes, look at this, Dad. Look at this. And I was going like, okay, the high school kid understands it. But why hasn't this pitch been easier to make for the Republicans, especially because they like to talk small government and then they don't do it? I mean, the American taxpayer is getting fleeced. We're getting fleeced by things that are built in. We're getting fleeced by entitlements. We're getting fleeced by spending that is automatically increased by the way it's designed. Is any of this anger really a manifestation of that, or are people still just vaguely, generally angry?
Well, generally speaking, when government takes more of your money, when government taxes you more, that takes away from your freedom, your ability to spend that money. I was talking to a young woman the other night, 26 years old. She was graduating with her doctorate in science, and she owed this huge amount of money to her student loans. And she said she'd figured it out. She was renting out her home under Airbnb, and lo and behold, she was going to be able to pay back her student loans from this. But this was in Baltimore, and Baltimore had just said, no more Airbnb. And she's like, I'm not asking the government for anything. I'm just asking for the government to get out of the way and allow me to be the person that I can be. So I really think the model of the future is Airbnb, and it's Uber. It's Uber everything. It's Uber accountant. It's Uber doctor. It's Uber lawyer. It's eliminating the middleman, you and I as consumers being able to directly pay the person providing the goods and services as opposed to paying a middleman and then the end result, which is just an entrepreneurial model of the future. It's exciting.
And the middleman, in most of those cases you mentioned, is a bureaucracy, is either the federal bureaucracy, a municipal bureaucracy, or a state bureaucracy.
Or a business, or someone, an organized business where the middleman comes in between who actually goes out and the plumber that actually goes out and fixes your drain.
How do you think, this is an old thing I've been pondering for years, how do you think that the radicals of the 60s who were on the left, who hated everything about the government, have now become the biggest pimps for governmental control in people's lives?
Well, it's crony capitalism. It's all about control, and regrettably, that's where we've gotten to. You know, the best example of crony capitalism I can think of is gaming. You know, who gets a gaming license and who doesn't? And now with the legalization of marijuana, it's amazing that they're granting only a certain amount of state licenses, which is really a license to steal. And so we're seeing that played out. Look, this is the example of free markets as opposed to controlled markets. And for the most part, what we have are controlled markets.
The culture
taking away opportunity from you and I.
The addiction to power in D.C., especially in Congress, Senate being the worst, because you've got senators that have been there since I was a young man, and I'm not a young man anymore. And they're people that are older than my grandparents, and they get addicted to the power. Do we have to go to the precipice of a revolution to start dialing back that culture?
There is a silver bullet in this, and something that I've always supported and will support in this presidential election is term limits. Term limits is a silver bullet. Limit the amount of time that people can serve, and I suggest that elected officials will do the right thing as opposed to whatever it takes to get reelected. And there's this something in the water in Washington that everybody wants to get reelected more than anything else, as opposed to doing the right thing.
The Senate's the worst. Repeal the 17th Amendment. I hate that.
Repeal the 17th Amendment.
Yeah.
We would not be in the situation that we're in today had not the 17th Amendment been instigated, which allows for the direct election of U.S. senators as opposed to U.S. senators being appointed by state legislatures. We would not have Washington telling the states what to do, because those jobs, those senators in Washington, would be dependent on the states that they came from.
Now, I'm gonna have to jump into this just to keep it real. I've had some hardcore libertarian friends, big fans of yours, call me this week and ask me about because they knew I was going to be talking to you about your recent comments on the laws in North Carolina and Georgia. And then I was saying, "Are you sure he said that? Are you sure?" And I said, "I'm going to ask him."
Now, what are these laws?
The religious freedom ones, or the anti-discrimination ones, as some people would portray them. The ones, the one that Nathan Deal just vetoed, the one in North Carolina that they're threatening to pull, some of the sports franchises out. Where do you fall on laws like that? I mean, because we're looking at, you want to protect these people, but you also want to protect religious liberties too, and it's liberties all around, and it just seems in those situations, somebody's liberties are going to get infringed upon sooner or later.
Right. Well, the question was, should businesses be able to discriminate against religion on the basis of religion? And I said no. I don't. That's grounded in U.S. law forever, and I think I think religion is a real black hole. I'm going to be denied service because of my religion, and you know what? If I don't have shoes on, if I stink, I should be denied. It should be up to the business owner. But religion, I don't think that is. I just see that as a black hole.
Do you see a slippery slope, though, where religious freedoms can eventually? Because I don't trust the federal involvement at any time always seems like it's going to turn ugly to me.
Well, first of all, there is no grounds for discrimination on the basis of religion currently. So what you would be saying, or what you would be changing, is that now you could discriminate on the basis of religion, and I don't agree with that at all.
Do you think that the federal government will eventually start trying to force churches into doing various things, or maybe threaten the tax-exempt status?
Well, tax-exempt status, that may be the case, but like I say, I think right now in this country you could see this mass exclusion of Muslims from goods and services, because let's just be safe as businesses, and government allows us to do that. I think that would be a horrible situation.
I'll open up shops catering to anybody who wants to spend money in every one of those places. Let the market work. That's the way I am. Let the market weed out the bad seeds in America, because it will eventually. And if they're living in a completely bigoted area where they're going to prevail anyway, there's not much you can do, because there's not a lot a inclusion there anyway. Let the market weed out the bad people.
And it's one of the discussions that libertarians have about the Civil Rights Act of the 60s. Look, if the Civil Rights Act of the 60s was not signed, Stephen, I believe there would still be segregation in the South today. Does anybody not believe that? I believe I would have signed civil rights legislation in the 60s.
Let's get to something else that, we're talking about liberties right now. My daughter's about to go to college. College campuses are becoming a hotbed of non-liberty lately. They're going after speech. They're going after due process.
Good example.
I mean, how is that going to be a pendulum thing? Will that swing eventually, or has academia just completely, thoroughly corrupted everything so far to the left that we can't do a real correction now?
Well, that's a great example. I mean, look, First Amendment to the Constitution, we have freedom of speech, and that freedom of speech is being thwarted on college campuses? Wow, I wouldn't have ever believed that I would have lived to see the day, but apparently this is what's happening, and this is about as anti-libertarian as you can possibly be.
In the name of safe spaces and things, they're actually starting to segregate themselves again, too. You mentioned the Civil Rights Act. We got college campuses now where people are trying to say, okay, only my people here, because I'm threatened if we mix right now and discuss these issues.
Well, and getting back to your earlier comment about freedom of religion and businesses being able to discriminate on the basis of freedom of religion, that's what we would end up with, is this segregation. We would end up with segregation. We'd end up with violence.
Now, Bernie Sanders, let's go to the socialist stuff right now, because there's a real disconnect there. I live in West LA, and I see people driving $75,000 vehicles with Bernie stickers on them, and I don't think they get exactly what he's after here. I don't think they understand that in his perfect world, they don't have a $75,000 car. But how, one of the hot talking points is the cost of college education in America right now, which I'm staring straight down the barrel of at the moment. And it's true, it's ridiculous. When I went to college, I could work and pay for college. You can't do that. My daughter can't go out and get a $40,000 a year job right now to pay for college. Bernie talks about the free college. We know how quickly that goes off the rails. How do we start to address things like that? How would President Gary Johnson go about maybe making a college education slightly less onerous, if not completely more affordable?
The way to make college education way more affordable is to abolish federal guaranteed student loans. That's the reason why we have high college tuition today, is because there are guaranteed government student loans that really don't, let off the hook colleges and universities from becoming more competitive. Colleges and universities have absolutely no incentive whatsoever to reduce costs, because you as a student are guaranteed a government student loan, and so college tuitions continue to go up and up and up. And if there never would have been a government guaranteed student loan, I guarantee you that college tuition would be half of what it is today.
So you're saying that federal involvement made something more expensive?
Oh!
Wow, I did not. Yeah, but that's kind of a third rail thing to talk about, though, isn't it? It's easier to sit over. It's easier to be on the left and go free, 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 free all day, and you're sitting in there going, no, maybe be an adult. And that's a rough pitch to make when you're just combating the feel-good broad brushstrokes on the left, isn't it?
Well, that's correct. Look, understand the reason for high college tuition. It's the government.
I'm with you 1,000% on that. So let's wrap up here. Going forward, where can people donate to your campaign? What are we looking at right now?
The easiest thing in the world is just Google Gary Johnson. Google Gary Johnson, and it's all right there. And for those that don't want to get online and donate or whatever, Google Gary Johnson anyway. Check it out.
And you're looking good for the nomination.
Well, I've never
challenge.
said that I'm going to be the nominee, but I hope to be. And it's a process right now, Stephen, and I'm in LA to partake in the Libertarian State Convention, which will have a presidential debate in it also.
And the Libertarian Convention's earlier than the other conventions, so you get a little steam built up then if you are the nominee. You've got extra time to work.
Yes, and an important point is that everybody's talking about third party right now. The only third party that's going to be on the ballot in all 50 states is the Libertarian Party. And by extension, the Libertarian nominee is going to be on the ballot in all 50 states. Right now, it's you could call it impossible to do that with an independent run by anybody. As much money, they could have all the money in the world and not accomplish 50-state ballot access at this point.
Governor Johnson, always good talking to you.
Stephen,
Best of
great
luck
talking
to you.
to you. Thank you.
I may be your comms director in 6 months, 5 months or whatever. You can find out more about Governor Johnson's campaign at GaryJohnson2016.com. You can take a look at his positions and show your support. Just remember, the government is bad. I'm Stephen Kruiser, and you can see me every week on The Rundown right here on PJTV. And for everyone here at PJTV, I'd like to thank you all for watching today.